Okay, welcome class. Today we will be doing an activity involving area method. Okay, but first I want to go ahead and show you how to read area tiles, which are also known as algebra tiles. So over here, we have a small box, okay? And we have each side represented by a number. So this side is 1, and this side is 1. And to get the area, we have to multiply them together. So 1 times 1 makes 1. So when you see our small boxes, they're going to represent 1. Okay, next, we have a rectangle. This side is x, this side is 1. To get the area, we do x times 1, which is x. So our rectangles are going to represent x. Okay. Next, we have our big square, and this side is x, and this side is x. And to find the area of our shape, we go ahead and multiply x times x, which makes x squared. Okay. So our large box is going to represent x squared. Okay, so we're going to remember this because we are going to be using this throughout our lesson. Okay, here we go. So we're going to multiply using the area method. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the area method to take our factored form of our quadratic expression and convert it just into a quadratic expression. So in order to do that, we're going to use the area method. So first, we start off by drawing a large box, and we're going to split it into 4 pieces. And as you can see, this represents the tiles we just talked about. We have our big box, we have our rectangles, and we have our small box. So what we're going to do is we're going to take first parentheses over here, and we're going to go ahead and put them on top. Okay? So we're going to take x, we're going to put it up here in this column, and then we're going to take our positive 2, and we're going to go ahead and put it in this column. And to represent positive numbers, I'm going to go ahead and write them in green. So we know green means positive numbers. Later, we are going to use red, and red is going to represent our negative numbers. Remember, green, positive, red, negative. Okay, so now we've worked with our first set of parentheses. We're going to go ahead and go to our second, and these ones go on this side. Okay, so we start off with our x, which goes in this row, and then a +1, which is also a positive 1. So our 1 is going to be in green. So this area method kind of works like a multiplication table. You know, with the multiplication table, we take our top number and we multiply it by our side number, and we move to find our answer. Okay, so this kind of works the same way. We're going to take our top number and our side number, move them together so we can write our answer there. We can take our top number right here, multiply it by our side number, move down, and we'll know this answer goes here. Okay, so first, we're going to start with x. We're going to start with our top. We're going to start with x, and we're going to multiply x times x, and then we're going to go ahead and multiply x times 1. We have to multiply it by both the variable and the number. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the 2. So x times x makes x squared. And then x times 1 just makes x, and since it is a positive, we are going to put it in green. It is a positive x. Okay, we are done with x because we filled up this column. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to our 2. And over here, we have 2 times x, which makes 2x. It is positive, so it is going to be a positive 2x. Okay, now we work with our next number, and we have a positive 2 times a positive 1, which makes a positive 2. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and use our area model to make our quadratic expression. So how we do that is we start with our biggest shape, and then we move down to our smallest shape. So our biggest shape is up here, and our biggest shape is x squared, so that is what goes first. Okay, then we have rectangles, 2 rectangles, okay? And as you can see, this rectangle has an x, and this rectangle has an x. So they are like terms. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're going to combine our like terms, okay? And we know that we have a positive 2x and a positive x, so we know we're gonna add. So 2x plus x is 3x. Okay. Now we go ahead into our final shape, our smallest shape down here, which is a positive 2, and that goes at the end of our quadratic expression. So our quadratic expression is x squared plus 3x plus 2. Okay, let's go ahead and do another example. Okay, so again, we're gonna multiply using the area method. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna draw our big box, okay? Because this is gonna help us convert our factored form of our quadratic expression and turn it just into our quadratic expression. So we make our big box, we split it into 4. Remember, we have our shapes, we have our big box, we have our rectangles, and we have our small box. So again, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the first set of parentheses and we're gonna put them at the top. So we have an X that goes here over this column. And then we have a plus 3, which is a positive 3. And remember, when we're working with positive numbers, we are writing them in green, so we know that they're positive. Okay, and that one goes over this column. Okay, so now we move on to our next set of parentheses, which goes on the side. We start with X, which goes here in this first row. And then we have plus 2, which is a positive 2. So we're gonna write that in green. Okay, and that goes in this row. That goes for this row right here. Okay, so now remember what we do. We start with our top and we're multiplying it by the side. Let's go ahead and start with our x. We're gonna multiply x times x, which makes x squared. Okay, now we're gonna stay with our x, and now we're gonna move to the 2. X times 2 is 2x, and it is a positive 2, so that makes a positive 2x. Okay, so we're done with this column. Now we need to go ahead and move with our 3 to finish this column. So here we go. We have a positive 3 times x, which makes a positive 3x. Okay. Last, we have 3 times 2, and it is a positive 3 and a positive 2, so that makes a positive 6. Okay, so now we have our area model. So now we're able to use it to write our quadratic expression. So remember, we start with our biggest shape and move down to our smallest shape. So our biggest shape is right here, which is x squared. So that goes first. Okay. And then we move to our rectangles. And remember, we have an x here and an x here, so we know they are like terms. So we're gonna go ahead and combine our like terms. Okay, what I also notice is that they're both positive. So that means we are going to add them together. So we have 3x plus 2x, which makes 5x. Okay, and now we have our last smallest box here, which is 6, and it's a positive 6. Which means we're going to put a plus there, and we're going to put our 6 at the end of our quadratic expression. So, using the area method, we found our quadratic expression, which is x squared plus 5x plus 6. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and use an extension of what we just learned, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can do this next problem. And what we want to do is, how can we use algebra tiles to multiply? So remember, our algebra tiles our smallest square is 1, our rectangle is x, and our biggest square is x squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and start and work with our factored form of our quadratic expression. And we always start with our first parentheses. As you can see, we have a negative here now. So remember what I said before is we're going to represent negatives with red. We're going to represent positives with green. Okay, so we start up at the top. We have an x. Okay, it's a positive x, that's why it's green. And then we have -2. -2. So we're going to go ahead and put -2, we're going to put 2 red boxes. As we have, because they both represent 1, and 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, so we went ahead and used the parentheses and put it at the top. So now let's go ahead and do our second set of parentheses and go ahead and put it on the side. So we're starting off with x, and x is positive, so we are using green. And then we have +3, so they know +3 is positive, so we're going to represent those with green. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and what we're going to do to be able to complete the square was the same thing we were using when we were doing our area method. We're going to multiply our tops by our sides. Okay, so we're going to start with our positive x right here, and a positive x times a positive x makes x squared. Okay, now we did x times x, so now we have to move down to these numbers here, and we have x times a +1, which makes a positive x. Then we have another x times a +1, which makes another x. And then x times 1 again is just x. Okay, so now we have x times 1, 2, 3 makes a positive 1, 2, 3 x. Okay, so we are done with this column. So now we need to go ahead and move over to our next number. Our next number is a -1. Now we're going to do -1 times x, which is -x. Okay, and now we move down. We have a -1 times a +1, which makes a -1. Okay, move down to the next one. -1 times a +1 makes a -1. And last one for this column, -1 times a +1 makes another -1. Okay, so now we finished this column. We're going to go ahead and move on to our last column. Okay, so we're going to start up at the top again. A -1 times x makes -x. We're moving down now. -1 times a +1 makes -1. Again, -1 times +1 is -1. And lastly, -1 times another +1 makes -1. And as you can see, this looks very similar to our area model that we were working with before. Okay, so you can keep these on the side, okay? But sometimes it can get confusing and you might accidentally add them. So what I like to do is after I complete our square, I go ahead and move them out of the way because we don't need them anymore. We just need the inside. Okay, and remember, when we're writing our quadratic expression, we start with our largest shape and move down to our smallest shape. So our largest shape is right here, which is x squared. Okay, and now we have -1, 2x, and we have a +1, 2, 3x. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our 3x's and we're going to subtract our 2x's over here. And 3 minus 2 makes a positive x. What you can also do to help you is you can put them together to cancel them out. So you can take a rectangle from this side and a rectangle from this side. Put them together, a positive x and a negative x just cancel out, so we're going to take them away. Again, we can take another rectangle on this side with another one over here, and we have a positive x and a negative x, and they cancel out. And what we are left with is a positive x. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move to our smallest boxes. Okay, and as we can see, they are all negative. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and combine them so that we have a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which goes at the end of our quadratic expression. So we went ahead and used area tiles to help us convert our factored form of our quadratic expression and change it into just a quadratic expression. And this represents x squared plus x minus 6.
See, I'm going to look. I'm going to look. Mine's that.